If you've heard of dynamic QR codes and you're not really sure what they are, this is the video for you. We'll cover what they are, how they're different to regular static QR codes, when you should use them, and more. With regular QR codes, often referred to as static QR codes, the scan destination, which is usually a link to a website, is encoded directly onto the pattern of the QR code itself. So when someone scans this, they're taken directly to the scan destination. Now, the difference with a dynamic QR code is instead of encoding the scan destination directly into the pattern of the QR code itself, instead the dynamic QR code generator will create a redirect link and then encode that into the pattern on the QR code. So when someone scans a dynamic QR code, instead of going directly to the scan destination, they're taken to the redirect link, which almost instantly redirects that person to the scan destination. One of the main benefits of dynamic QR codes is that you can edit the scan destination even after you've created and printed the QR code. So for example, imagine you created a poster and some leaflets for an event, and then you realize that you need to change the link. There might have been a mistake in the link, or you might have changed the provider that you're using to sell tickets to the event. Whatever the reason, you need to edit the QR code. Now with a regular static QR code, you would have had to recreate the poster, reprint it, and then redistribute it. With a dynamic QR code, you simply edit the scan destination on the QR code. It's as simple as that. That is a huge benefit of using dynamic QR codes. Another benefit of dynamic QR codes is that they include tracking and analytics. So if you have a marketing campaign that involves posters and leaflets, for example, you can use dynamic QR codes to see which ones are more effective. It's also useful to know things like the time of day your QR codes are being scanned, whether they're being scanned at all. And most dynamic QR code providers also offer things like location estimates of where the QR codes are being scanned and things like the devices used to scan the QR codes, which can also be helpful. Another small benefit of dynamic QR codes is that when you create a dynamic QR code, it often looks less dense and less complicated than a static QR code, especially if the link you're using is quite long. There are a couple of small drawbacks to using dynamic QR codes that are worth keeping in mind. The first is that when someone's scanning over a dynamic QR code, the link that they see is the redirect link and it's not the scan destination link. Once they actually scan the QR code, they'll be instantly redirected to the scan destination, but the link they end up at is not the same one that they see when they're hovering over the QR code. This isn't a big deal and there's some ways around it, which I'll talk about later in the video, but it's worth keeping in mind. The other issue is the problem of expired QR codes. Some dynamic QR code providers have a limit on the number of times your dynamic QR codes can be scanned. Some use time limits, like maybe a few months. And after that point, if you're not on a paid plan, they will expire your QR code. In those scenarios, if someone scans an expired QR code, they're taken to the redirect link, and then the redirect link doesn't forward them onto the scan destination. So in a way, your QR code stops working. Now, this is only possible with dynamic QR codes because with static QR codes, when someone scans a code, they're taken directly to the scan destination. So there's no way for the provider to stop that QR code working. So it's worth doing some research to make sure you pick the right provider that won't expire your QR code in an unexpected way. And it's also worth thinking about, whether the provider's been around for a while and whether they're reputable. Because if you pick a provider that goes bust for some reason or disappears and their redirect links stop working, that also means your QR codes will stop working. So again, it's just worth doing a bit of research here. Now at Hovercode, we don't expire QR codes. We've been around for years. We've got hundreds of thousands of people using us. So it's not a concern with us, but it's worth doing your research with whichever provider you go with. It's also a reason that you might want to consider static QR codes. If you know for a fact you don't need to edit your scan destination and you don't really care about tracking, how many times your QR code has been scanned, then using a static QR code might be a good option for you. One of the popular features we offer at Hovercode is the ability to connect a custom domain to Hovercode to use with the redirect links on your dynamic QR codes. This gives you the benefits of dynamic QR codes without some of the drawbacks. Hopefully you now have a good understanding of what dynamic QR codes are, when you might want to use them versus static QR codes, and how it all works. At Hovercode, we have a pretty generous free plan, so if you want to experiment with both dynamic and static QR codes, please head over to hovercode.com. Try it out, let me know what you think.